Hey, it's Michael Raso, Film Photography Project. Today talking about the basic 35mm film scanner kit manufactured by Negative Supply and available at filmphotographystore.com. You can go over to filmphotographystore.com to read all about this kit. In this video, I'm going to be demonstrating workflow. Once the image is captured using this kit, I'm going to be bringing the image into Adobe Photoshop and showing you some very basic grading that I do in order to make the image ready for printing, displaying on the web, sharing. And I know that this may be new to a lot of you folks, and I just want to kind of share my workflow. So let's get started. Okay, we're now in Adobe Photoshop, and we're looking at all the images that we scanned. So when you, of course, snap an image of a negative, you're going to actually have a negative image, and you do need to bring it into a software program like Adobe Photoshop or other. We're first going to go in here, and I'm going to remove the color because you're just snapping a negative with a DSLR camera, so it's going to snap it as a color image. So I'm going to grayscale, and then I'm going to invert the image. And check it out. Very, very nice. I'm going to keep some of these grindy borders. So I'm going to crop it a little bit. Crop. And now with this image, in my opinion, there's very little to do. There's some curve adjustments to make. So I go to Adjustments, Levels, and here is your histogram of the image. And there's not enough contrast in this image, so I'm going to make it a little more contrasty. And that's it. Now, there's other work to do, but I'm only doing a light color grade. This is called color grading. Okay, next image. Okay, and I'm going to do a little bit of cropping. I'm going to keep some of the grindiness around the image. I'll crop it a little bit. And now I'm going to go into levels, bring up some of the levels here. It's still a little too contrasty for my taste, so I'm going to lower the contrast. And that's it. That's it. Okay. Let's change the orientation. Oops. Going to remove the color. Going to invert the image to a positive. Okay, so this is a bit tougher image because it's not your typical black and white negative film. This is a high contrast film called Eastman 2374. It's one of the hand-rolled films that FPP carries. So it's going to be a little bit more challenging than your average negative. I'm going to crop it. And I'm going to work with the levels. The image itself is kind of smashed, meaning that when I shot this image, it's very high contrast, and I was using a flash, so I actually blew out some of the highlights in the face of Madame Dracula. Count Dracula, his skin tones are held up much better. Well, he has a darker complexion. Madame Dracula, true to vampires, had a very, very fair complexion, so she might have been closer to the flash as well. These numbers here running across the image, those are characteristics of this film stock. Has nothing to do with the scan. So looking at this image, and I've scanned this image before on my Epson desktop scanner, so I've seen this image before, and that's pretty much what we're going to get. And that's a characteristic of the film, not necessarily a characteristic of the scanning process. Whoa! This is a Kodak Ektachrome image. Ektachrome scans for whatever reason. First of all, it's a positive. There's nothing to invert. And right out of the box, this is very close to the final image of what I would want. So I'm just going to crop it a little bit. And it's just a little too contrasty for my taste. So I'm going to just make it a little less contrasty. And that's it. Here is a color negative. So let's rotate the image. Let's invert the image. You could see some writing on some images to see the orientation of how you scan things, of what's right side up and or upside down, or in this case, the menu wording is backwards, so I need to flip the canvas horizontally. There we go. And now I'm going to highlight the area, and I'm going to cross my fingers and ask Photoshop to do an auto tone on this. Okay. Now remember, when you're snapping pictures, this is daylight color negative film shot indoors. So the film is balanced for daylight. So there's some, incandescent light going on here. There's some green lighting going on here in the restaurant. So it's up to you to go into whatever a software program you're using. I'm going to go to color balance. And whether you're using Adobe Photoshop or some other software, the basics are all there. They're in different areas, but they're all about the same. So there's way too much green for my taste in this particular image, so I'm going to suck some of that green out. I'm pleased already. Put a little yellow into it. I'm going to adjust the levels. And that's I've been to this restaurant many times. This is what it looks like. So this is exactly what it is. No lighting. This is shot with natural, just snapping an image. So I am going to call it a day on this. Here we have another Ektachrome image. Okay, there we go. Okay, so Kodak Ektachrome and Fuji Velvia, these are color positive, also known as reversal films. So what you shoot in your camera is a positive. So when scanning, you're actually shooting a positive, so there's nothing to invert. I'm very pleased with this image. I do want to adjust some of the contrast. It's a little too contrasty for my taste, so I'm going to make it less contrasty. Okay, I'm done. Okay, this is an image John Fedeli shot and scanned. For those of you who don't know, John Fedeli and myself have been co-hosting the Film Photography Podcast, the long-running podcast. I am going to invert. Okay, so we have a low contrast, possibly a little bit overexposed image. John mentioned he was having some trouble with his camera and that he may not have exposed it properly. And as long as there's some detail here, which there is, we can go in and we could make some changes to make this work. So I'm going to go to Levels, and here's your histogram. Every image has a histogram showing you your lights and your darks. And by looking at this, I know I want to make it much more contrasty. Let's do that. And there you have it. It's somewhat of an unusual image. I like it. Once I do these general touch-ups, like for example, I'll send this image to John if he wants to make further changes. He can. So that's really it. These are all the scans we did when John Fedeli and I met last week on the brand new Basic DSLR 35mm film scanner, which is available at thefilmphotographystore.com. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave them below. You could also email me, michael@filmphotographyproject.com. And I'll see you next time.